This definitely happened in 2020 because it's COVID related. Well, I got COVID, lost my taste and smell for a month, which was such a bummer. Then, when 2021 rolled around, I noticed that they were putting out advertisements for people that have recovered from COVID to give plasma. I used to give plasma a lot. When I was in seminary, I gave plasma 2 or 3 times a week. I have very distinctive memories of having this large gauge needle in one arm and Pilgrim's Progress in my other hand, reading Pilgrim's Progress while giving plasma. And they use this real large gauge needle where they pull out a bunch of blood, they spin it in a thing, and then they put a lot of the blood back as well as saline, which is real weird. It feels bizarre because the saline that they put in to replace the plasma is room temperature, but your body is not room temperature. So it feels very cold going into you, and you can feel it up in your veins and into your chest. It's an experience. But in 2021, I heard that they needed plasma from people who had gotten over COVID. I thought I'd give it a shot. So I went to one of the plasma centers. I was living in Aurora, Colorado at the time. Went to one of the plasma centers, and they did a couple of tests. They did some interviews. I was laying on a gurney or a stretcher deal for a little while. And then they weighed me. And the woman got real weird when she weighed me. She stopped talking and then went and got a supervisor. And the supervisor came and said, "I'm sorry, we can't take your plasma. Are you going to argue with me?" I said, "No, I'm not going to argue with you." And then I left. It was a weird experience. Like, she was expecting a fight, but okay, you don't want my plasma? I'm just trying to help. But I went to another place. Now, before I did this, I looked up if there's a weight limit to plasma. Can you weigh too much for donating plasma? Nowhere on the website did it say anything about that. They talked about you can weigh too little. If you're very small, you're not supposed to give plasma, but you can't weigh too much. So I went to another plasma center. In Aurora, there was 2 within a mile of my house. Went to this other one. Did the whole training seminar where they would show you videos of what is plasma and how do they get it, all that stuff. And I knew, but they still went through all of that. And I, again, went through a little, not a physical, but questions, and they weighed me. I cheated the scale. At the time, I was well north of 500 pounds. But I figured 500 might be a limit. So when I stepped on the scale, I didn't fully step on the scale. However, it still came out to like 460, something like that. And I was like, that's pretty good. And then they made me wait in this little room. And I was waiting in this little room until a male nurse, I think he was a nurse, but a male guy in scrubs, and he was chubby, a chubby male nurse, comes up to me and says, "Yeah, you weigh too much." you are too heavy to give plasma. I didn't know that was a thing, but apparently it is. You cannot weigh over 400 pounds and give plasma, which was interesting because I also cheated the scale and still was too heavy. He said, if you want to lose weight and come back, then you can. Now, since then, I have lost a significant amount of weight. I'm under 400. I can go give plasma, but I haven't. I probably won't. It was an interesting thought. I'm here to try to help people. We don't want your fat guy plasma.